Welcome back to the channel, Wanderers of the Wasteland. Today, we're diving into the darkest secret of Fallout 3. The truth that your entire life as the lone wanderer was an elaborate Vault-Tec experiment, and your beloved father was in on it from the very beginning. What if I told you that Catherine didn't die from random cardiac arrest, but was murdered as part of the experiment? What if every friend you had, every enemy you faced, even your escape from Vault 101 was scripted years before you were born? This confession from a dying vault. 101 resident exposes how Project Purity was never about water. It was about creating the perfect tool to reshape the wasteland according to Vault-Tec's design. And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of dark storytelling, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if it truly resonates with you. They tell me I have maybe 6 hours before the radiation finishes what the tumor started. 6 hours to confess what I've kept buried for 20 years. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you understand the truth about Vault 101, about your precious lone wanderer, about the greatest lie ever sold to the Capital Wasteland. I was there from the beginning, not just as a resident, but as one of the observers. One of the watchers. Vault-Tec embedded 12 of us throughout the Vault population, living double lives, reporting everything through hidden terminals that connected to a monitoring station 3 levels below what anyone thought was the bottom of the Vault. We lived among you, ate in the same diner, took the same GOT tests, pretended our biggest worry was radroach infestations. But every night we descended into the real Vault 101, the one where the experiment notes were compiled, the one where every word, every gesture, every heartbeat of our subjects was recorded and analyzed. You need to understand something about Vault-Tec that most wastelanders never grasped. They didn't build vaults to save humanity. They built them to reshape it, to test it, to break it down to its component parts, and see what combinations might create their vision of the perfect post-war society. Every vault was a petri dish, every resident a bacterial culture growing according to carefully controlled conditions. Some vaults tested radiation exposure, others tested psychological breaking points through sacrifice or isolation. But Vault 101 was special. We weren't testing the residents, we were creating something. The project had a designation that even now makes my skin crawl. Protocol 779, the Wasteland Messiah Initiative. The goal was elegantly simple in its horror: create the perfect wasteland manipulator, someone who could shape the post-war world according to Vault-Tec's design without ever knowing they were a tool, someone who would make the hard choices, influence entire communities, and reshape the Capital Wasteland while believing every decision was their own. James knew everything. That's the first truth that will hurt. Your beloved father figure, the noble scientist who just wanted clean water for everyone, was Vault-Tec from the beginning. Recruited straight out of the Commonwealth Institute of Technology 30 years before the bombs fell. He specialized in behavioral conditioning and social engineering. Project Purity was real, yes, but it was always a cover story, a noble goal to mask the real experiment. Think about it. What better way to create someone who could influence the wasteland than to give them a father whose dream was to save it? The real Project Purity wasn't about water. It was about creating purity of purpose in a single individual. Someone raised in isolation, shaped by carefully orchestrated trauma, and then released into the wasteland at exactly the right moment to maximum effect. Every detail of that person's life would be controlled, monitored, adjusted. Every friend, every enemy, every loss, every triumph would be scripted. And who better to oversee this than a loving father who could sell the lie with complete conviction because he believed in the greater good? Catherine was real. I need you to understand that because it makes what comes next so much worse. She was brilliant, passionate, and genuinely in love with James. She really did work on water purification technology before she was recruited, but she never knew what James really was. When Vault-Tec identified her as the perfect genetic match for their experiment, when they calculated that her personality traits combined with James's would produce the optimal subject, she thought she was falling in love naturally. Every romantic moment, every whispered promise, every dream they shared about changing the world, James was following a script written in a Vault-Tec behavioral lab. The pregnancy was planned down to the day. Vault-Tec needed their subject born at a specific time to align with their projected timeline for the Vault's opening. They needed the child to reach certain developmental milestones at exact moments. Catherine's pregnancy was monitored not just by James, but by an entire hidden medical team. When she went into labor at Jefferson Memorial, She thought Madison Lee was the only one helping. She never saw the 6 Vault-Tec medical observers in the maintenance tunnels, recording every vital sign through sensors embedded in the medical equipment. Here's what the official story doesn't tell you. Catherine's death wasn't random cardiac arrest. The injection James gave her during delivery wasn't a painkiller. It was Compound 15, a Vault-Tec synthetic that could trigger cardiac arrest while leaving no trace in a standard autopsy. The dosage was calculated to give her exactly enough time to see her child, to name them if it was part of the protocol, to create that single perfect moment of connection before the compound took effect. James held his wife as she died, tears streaming down his face, playing his role flawlessly because part of him, the part Vault-Tec hadn't quite managed to kill, really did love her. But love wasn't enough to stop him from murdering her, because that's what Protocol 779 required. The subject needed to grow up without a mother. They needed that specific absence, that particular wound that would never quite heal. Vault-Tec's psychologists had run thousands of simulations. A child with both parents would be too stable, too secure. A child with no parents would be too damaged, too unpredictable. But a child with a loving but distant father, haunted by their mother's death, carrying the weight of being the reason she died, that child would develop exactly the right mix of guilt, determination, and malleability. The escape to Vault 101 was choreographed down to the second. Star Paladin Cross wasn't randomly in the area. She was positioned there 3 days in advance, her mission parameters uploaded directly from Vault-Tec command. The super mutant attacks along the route were herded into position using ultrasonic transmitters. Every moment of danger was calculated to create the narrative James would tell his child years later. How he gave up everything to keep them safe, how the vault was their only option, how the outside world was too dangerous. Overseer Almodovar was one of us. His entire family line had been Vault-Tec loyalists for 3 generations. His parents, the ones who supposedly opposed outside contact, were following Vault-Tec directives. The previous overseer, who disappeared in the wasteland, was recalled to corporate headquarters after successfully preparing the vault for the next phase. Almodovar's role was to be the perfect authoritarian figure, strict enough to create rebellion in the subject, but not so harsh as to break them entirely. Think about your first memories in that vault. The birthday party when you turned 10. Do you remember how perfectly everything went wrong? How Butch's attempt to take your sweet role created your first moral choice? Stand up for yourself or avoid conflict. That wasn't random childhood bullying. Butch's parents were compensated through hidden food rations to encourage their son's aggressive behavior. The timing was synchronized to occur exactly when your neural pathways were most susceptible to forming long-term response patterns. The tunnel snakes weren't just a gang. They were a psychological pressure tool, carefully managed to create specific stress responses in the subject. Every confrontation was monitored. When they cornered a martyr, when they threatened other residents, when they pushed just hard enough to force you to act but not hard enough to cause real harm. Those were scripted encounters. Wally Mack once broke character and actually hurt another resident beyond the acceptable parameters. He was sedated that night and spent 3 days in reconditioning before being returned to the population with his memories adjusted. And Amata, sweet, loyal Amata, the overseer's daughter who became your best friend, the one person who seemed to understand you. She was perhaps the cruelest part of the entire experiment. Amata was selected before birth to be your companion. Her mother didn't die of disease when she was 2. She was reassigned to Vault 87 after genetic screening determined she might produce offspring with too much independence. A new woman was brought in, memory wiped and programmed to believe she was Amata's mother, then eliminated on schedule when Amata was young enough that she'd barely remember her. Amata was raised with one purpose: to be exactly what you needed at every stage of development. When you needed a friend, she was there. When you needed someone to confide in, she listened. When you needed someone to rebel with against authority, she was ready. Every word of encouragement, every shared secret, every moment of connection was part of her conditioning. They started training her when she was 3 years old, using reward and punishment protocols to shape her into the perfect supporting character for your story. The GO8 test was never about job placement. How could it be when the Vault's population was already perfectly balanced for maintenance? No, the GO8 was a psychological evaluation tool designed to measure exactly how the subject's personality was developing. Each question was calibrated to test different aspects of moral reasoning, aggression thresholds, empathy responses, and problem-solving approaches. The results were transmitted directly to Vault-Tec Command, where teams of analysts would adjust upcoming scenarios based on your answers. Did you choose to help your grandmother kill someone in that hypothetical? Then the next staged crisis in the vault would test your loyalty boundaries. Did you choose violence to solve the locked door problem? Then Butch would escalate his aggression to see if you'd maintain that pattern. Every answer shaped the next phase of your conditioning, creating a feedback loop that slowly molded you into exactly what Vault-Tec needed. Your father's decision to leave the vault wasn't spontaneous. It was triggered by an encrypted transmission hidden in the Vault 101 emergency frequency. The message was simple: asset ready for deployment. Initiate Phase 2. James spent 3 days pretending to agonize over the decision, but his path was set the moment that message arrived. The chaos his departure would cause, the lockdown, the violence, all of it was calculated to create the perfect catalyst for your emergence into the wasteland. Jonas Palmer discovered part of the truth. That's why he really died. Not because he helped James escape, but because he found the observation level. He'd been tracking power fluctuations for months, trying to locate a drain that didn't match any known system. The night James left, Jonas didn't go to help him. He went to investigate the power anomaly. He found the hidden entrance behind the reactor chamber. He saw the monitoring stations, the walls of screens showing every inch of the vault, the decades of experiment notes. He tried to run, to warn someone, but Security Chief Hannon was already waiting. They made it look like the Overseer's men killed him, but Hannon was following orders from 3 levels down. The radroaches that attacked during your escape weren't an infestation. They were released from breeding chambers in the observation level, genetically modified for aggression but not lethality. Every obstacle during your escape was placed deliberately. Officer Kendall was positioned to be your first kill, selected because his psychological profile indicated he'd hesitate just long enough for you to act first, creating a self-defense scenario that would ease you into violence. When Amata helped you escape, she was following a script she'd rehearsed in her sleep. Vault-Tec had been using subsonic conditioning broadcasts in her quarters since she was 14, programming her responses for this exact scenario. The gun she might give you, the secret passage she revealed, even the tears in her eyes. All of it was programmed behavior reinforced through years of subtle manipulation. The saddest part is that somewhere beneath all that conditioning, a part of her really did care about you. That's what made her performance so convincing. The Overseer's interrogation of his daughter during your escape was theater. Both of them knew exactly what was happening. The beating, the shouting, the apparent betrayal. It was designed to create maximum emotional impact, to sever your last ties to the vault, and ensure you'd never want to return. Almodovar struck his daughter with practiced precision, hard enough to leave marks that would reinforce the narrative, but never hard enough to cause permanent damage. Amata's cries of pain were real, but her father had been hurting her in controlled ways since she was young, building her tolerance and teaching her to perform suffering on command. The vault door opening, that blinding moment when you first saw the Capital Wasteland. That was your birth into the world Vault-Tec had prepared for you. Every sunset you'd watched on those classroom slides, every warning about the dangers outside, every story about the world that was lost, all of it was designed to make that first moment hit you like a sledgehammer. The emotional overload, the sensory bombardment, the mixture of fear and wonder, it would make you psychologically vulnerable, ready to be shaped by the experiences Vault-Tec had planned. Megaton wasn't random. Your emergence from Vault 101 was timed to coincide with specific events throughout the wasteland. Lucas Sims had received an anonymous tip 3 days before that someone important would be coming from the vault. Moriarty's knowledge about your father wasn't because James stopped for a drink and talked too much. Moriarty was a Vault-Tec asset, recruited years before the war and kept alive through a steady supply of anti-radiation medication that only Vault-Tec could provide. His bar was a monitoring station, every conversation recorded and transmitted to hidden receivers. Think about how perfectly your journey unfolded. Every lead that brought you closer to your father, every person who happened to have just the right information, every door that opened at exactly the right time. Galaxy News Radio broadcasting your activities across the wasteland wasn't Three Dogs' initiative. He was receiving scripts from a Vault-Tec operative embedded in his technical staff. Your story needed to be heard, needed to inspire and influence others. You weren't just being shaped anymore. You were shaping the wasteland through your legend. The super mutants at the Jefferson Memorial cleared out just before you arrived. Not because they randomly decided to leave, but because they received a coordinated ultrasonic pulse that triggered their migration instincts. Vault-87 wasn't just creating super mutants randomly. It was creating them according to Vault-Tec specifications, releasing them in controlled numbers to maintain the perfect level of threat in the wasteland. Too few Inhumans would rebuild too quickly. Too many and there'd be no one left to govern. The balance was maintained through careful calculation. When you found your father in Tranquility Lane, trapped in that virtual nightmare, you thought you were rescuing him. But James knew exactly where he was. He'd volunteered for that simulation, spending weeks inside Braun's twisted playground, while his implants downloaded terabytes of Vault-Tec behavioral data directly into his cortex. The entire rescue scenario was designed to reinforce your role as the hero, to make you feel powerful and necessary. Braun himself was following a script, his sadistic games carefully calibrated to test your problem-solving abilities and moral flexibility. Madison Lee's reluctance to restart. Project Purity was performed flawlessly because she didn't know she was performing. Her conditioning was more subtle than most. Microscopic implants in her temporal lobe that could influence her emotional responses when triggered by specific phrases. When James said the waters of life, it activated her hope centers. When he mentioned Catherine, it triggered her guilt. She thought her feelings were her own, but Vault-Tec was pulling her strings like a marionette. The Enclave's arrival at Project Purity wasn't the disaster it seemed. Colonel Autumn was the wildcard Vault-Tec didn't fully control, but his appearance was anticipated and accounted for. The project needed an enemy, a force that would unite the wasteland against a common threat. James's sacrifice, his grand gesture of flooding the chamber with radiation, was always the plan. He'd been taking radiation-resistant supplements for months, building up his tolerance. The dose that killed him was precisely calculated. He needed to die slowly enough to give you final words, to pass the torch, to make you feel the weight of destiny. But here's what even James didn't know. The radiation that killed him was laced with a Vault-Tec neurological agent. As he died, his brain was being scanned, every memory and thought pattern uploaded to Vault-Tec servers. They wanted to study the long-term effects of living the lie, of being both experimenter and participant. James died believing he'd protected you by giving his life, never knowing that his death was just another data point in an experiment that started before you were born. President Eden's offer to poison the water supply with modified FEV wasn't Eden's idea. The suggestion was planted in his base code by Vault-Tec programmers who helped design him. They needed to test whether you could resist the temptation of genocide when it was presented as a solution. Would you take the easy path of elimination, or would you choose the harder road of coexistence? Every choice you made was catalogued, analyzed, and used to refine Vault-Tec's models of human behavior. The Brotherhood of Steel's involvement was orchestrated through Elder Lyons, though he never knew it. His daughter Sarah had neural implants installed during a routine medical procedure years earlier. These implants could influence her tactical decisions, making her more likely to trust you, to fight alongside you, to sacrifice herself if necessary. The Brotherhood's resources, their military might, their technological advantage, all of it was positioned to be at your disposal at exactly the right moment. Liberty Prime's awakening wasn't because you helped complete the robot. It was because Vault-Tec transmitted the final activation codes when their algorithms determined it was time. The giant robot's patriotic speeches, its overwhelming firepower, its presence at the final battle, all of it was designed to create an unforgettable climax to your story. You needed to feel like you were part of something larger, something historic. You needed to become a legend. The choice at the Purifier, to sacrifice yourself or let someone else die, was the culmination of everything Vault-Tec had been testing. Would you be the martyr cementing your legend through death, or would you be the survivor, living with the guilt but able to continue shaping the wasteland? They had contingencies for both outcomes. If you died, they had cloning technology ready. If you lived, they had more scenarios prepared. The experiment never really ended. Raven Rock's destruction, whether you caused it or not, eliminated most of the evidence of Vault-Tec's continued operations. The mainframes that were destroyed contained records of hundreds of experiments, thousands of test subjects, decades of manipulation, but the data had already been backed up to secure sites. The destruction just cleaned up loose ends, removed potential whistleblowers, and maintained the illusion that Vault-Tec was a relic of the old world. If this story has kept you listening this far, and you want more of these dark confessions from the wasteland, hit that subscribe button. It tells me someone out there is still paying attention to warnings like these. Every companion who joined you was evaluated and selected. Dogmeat wasn't just a random dog who happened to be loyal. He was bred in Vault-86's biological program, genetically enhanced for intelligence, and trained from birth to respond to specific pheromone markers. You gave off those markers thanks to the modified proteins in your Vault-101 food supply. Forks choosing to help you wasn't because he maintained his humanity despite the FEV. His specific mutation was engineered to retain cognitive function and develop loyalty patterns. He was programmed to seek out and protect individuals matching your genetic profile. The random encounters throughout the wasteland weren't random at all. That family asking for water, those raiders attacking a settlement, the traveling merchants who always seemed to have exactly what you needed. All of it was coordinated through Vault-Tec's network of assets. They created a living story around you, responsive and dynamic, but always guiding you toward predetermined outcomes. Even the karma system that seemed to judge your actions was a Vault-Tec construct. Those mysterious forces that tracked whether you were good or evil. That was their behavioral monitoring system, quantifying your moral choices and adjusting future scenarios accordingly. If you leaned toward evil, more opportunities for darkness would present themselves. If you chose good, the wasteland would provide more chances for heroism. You weren't just being watched, you were being scored. Vault-101's call for help, a martyr's desperate message asking you to return and save them from chaos. That was phase 3 of the experiment. They needed to test whether your conditioning would hold once you'd experienced freedom. Would you return to help those who cast you out? Would you destroy them? Would you ignore them entirely? Amata's rebellion against her father was scripted, their conflict choreographed. The Vault was never really in danger. They just needed to see what you'd become. If you returned and helped establish peace, Amata's final rejection of you wasn't because you were too dangerous or influential. It was because Vault-Tec needed you back in the wasteland. Your story couldn't end in Vault-101. You had more work to do, more communities to influence, more of the wasteland to shape according to their design. Amata cried real tears when she sent you away. The one genuine moment in a lifetime of performance, because deep in her conditioned mind, she knew she was condemning you to a life of eternal manipulation. The expedition to Point Lookout, the journey to the pit, the mission to Alaska, none of these were random adventures. Each was a carefully designed test chamber, isolated from the main wasteland, where Vault-Tec could test specific aspects of your conditioning. How would you handle pre-war Chinese infiltrators? How would you respond to a slave rebellion? What choices would you make when faced with tribal mysticism versus scientific exploitation? Every DLC was another experiment, another set of data points. The alien abduction was real, but it wasn't random. Vault-Tec had been in communication with the Zetans for decades before the war. The abduction was scheduled, your genetic profile transmitted to the mothership years in advance. Even alien species were interested in Vault-Tec's behavioral experiments. The recordings you found on that ship, the evidence of pre-war abductions, Vault-Tec had been trading human subjects for technology long before the bombs fell. Here's the darkest truth I've saved for near the end. You weren't the only one. Vault-Tec created dozens of lone wanderers across the country, each vault designed to produce a specific type of wasteland influence. Some succeeded, becoming the heroes or villains of their regions. Others failed, dying in their vaults or shortly after emerging. You were just the most successful iteration of the Capital Wasteland experiment. Your codename in the Vault-Tec files was Asset 101 Prime. The other experiments are still running. Right now, in vaults across the ruins of America, children are being raised according to carefully designed parameters. Their parents are actors or true believers. Their friends are assigned. Their enemies are scripted. They're living in elaborate theater productions, never knowing they're on stage. And someday, when Vault-Tec's algorithms determine the time is right, they'll emerge into the wasteland believing they're the heroes of their own stories. The water purifier activated, spreading clean water across the Capital Wasteland. But it was spreading something else too. Microscopic trackers, invisible and tasteless, designed to monitor everyone who drank the water. Within 6 months, Vault-Tec would have real-time biological data on every person in the region. Heart rates, hormone levels, genetic markers, brain activity. All of it transmitted to hidden receivers and compiled into the most comprehensive database of human behavior ever created. Your father didn't know about the trackers. His genuine desire to help people made him the perfect, unwitting accomplice. He died believing Project Purity would save the wasteland, never realizing he'd turned it into the largest surveillance network in history. Every person who drank that water became part of Vault-Tec's extended experiment. Their lives monitored, their choices catalogued, their futures subtly influenced through targeted interventions. The Brotherhood's distribution of the water wasn't charity, it was deployment of Vault-Tec's control mechanism. Each caravan route was calculated to ensure maximum coverage. Priority went to communities that showed the most potential for development, the ones that could become power centers in the new world. Vault-Tec wasn't just watching anymore. Through the water, through the legend of the Lone Wanderer, through their network of assets, they were actively shaping the rebuilding of civilization. Three Dog stories about you weren't just propaganda, they were psychological programming for the masses. The tales of the Lone Wanderer's heroism or villainy created a shared mythology, a common narrative that united disparate communities. People began making decisions based on what they thought you would do. What would the Lone Wanderer choose? Became a question that shaped the moral framework of an entire generation. You became a god in their minds, and Vault-Tec became the hidden priest class interpreting your will. I found all of this out 17 years ago. I was doing maintenance on the Vault's water recycling system when I discovered the secondary pipeline. Following it led me to the observation level, to terminals full of experiment notes, to videos of every moment of your life in the vault. I watched them inject compounds into your food. I saw them adjust your father's memories while he slept. I observed them rehearsing scenarios with Amata, teaching her exactly how to cry, how to laugh, how to be your perfect friend. The weight of it broke something in me. I tried to tell people, but who would believe such an elaborate conspiracy? I had no proof. The moment I left the observation level, hidden protocols wiped the terminals. Security footage showed me doing routine maintenance, nothing more. Trying to return to that level led only to solid walls where doors had been. It was as if the place had never existed, as if I'd imagined it all. But I knew what I'd seen. I started paying attention to patterns, to the small inconsistencies that revealed the truth. The way certain residents would have conversations that seemed scripted. The perfect timing of every crisis. The fact that despite constant danger, no one important ever actually died unless it served the narrative. Vault 101 wasn't a shelter or even a prison. It was a stage, and we were all unwitting actors in someone else's play. I tried to leave the vault, to warn you, to warn anyone, but my Pip-Boy had been modified. The moment I went beyond a certain distance from Vault 101, it began injecting toxins into my bloodstream. Not enough to kill immediately, just enough to cause excruciating pain and force me back. I was trapped, condemned to live with the knowledge while watching the experiment continue around me. Then came the day you returned to Vault 101. I watched you handle the crisis, make your choices, never knowing that every option had been predicted and planned for. Whether you saved the vault or destroyed it, whether you sided with Amata or her father, whether you walked away or got involved, all of it was just another test, another data point in an experiment that would outlive us all. After you left that final time, after the vault sealed again, something changed. The observations became less subtle. Residents started disappearing for days, returning with no memory of being gone. Children began displaying knowledge they shouldn't have, using words they'd never learned. The food started tasting different, chemical somehow. We were being prepared for something, though none of us knew what. One night, I heard them talking through the ventilation system. Not the residents, but the observers. They spoke about Phase 4, about the culmination protocol. The Lone Wanderer had performed beyond expectations. The Capital Wasteland experiment had yielded unprecedented data. It was time to move to the next stage. They mentioned other vaults, other regions, a coordination of assets that would reshape the entire continent. They're going to activate all the experiments at once. Every Lone Wanderer, every chosen one, every sole survivor, they'll all be deployed simultaneously. The water systems will be connected, creating a network of control across the ruins of America. Vault-Tec isn't trying to rebuild the old world. They're building something new, something where every human action is monitored, predicted, controlled. Free will become an illusion maintained just enough to keep people compliant. The cancer that's killing me isn't random. I'm certain of that now. It started the day after I accessed a restricted terminal, trying to send a warning to the outside world. The tumor appeared overnight, aggressive and untreatable. Dr. Mitchell, not the one you knew in Good Springs, But our Vault's physician told me it was unfortunate, that sometimes these things just happen. But I saw the fear in his eyes, the way his hands shook as he delivered the diagnosis. He knew what they'd done to me. I don't have much time left, but I needed someone to know the truth. You, the lone wanderer, you were their greatest success and their potential downfall. Because in creating someone who could change the wasteland, they also created someone who could expose them. The conditioning isn't perfect. The human spirit, that spark of genuine free will, it can break through. I've seen moments where you acted outside their predictions, made choices they didn't account for. Those glitches in their system, those moments of true humanity. That's where hope lives. Every time you helped someone without gaining anything, every time you made a choice that didn't fit their psychological models, you proved that their control isn't absolute. You're more than what they made you. You have to be. Because if you're not, if free will truly is dead, then we're all just characters in Vault-Tec's story, dancing to their script until the curtain falls. Listen carefully now, because this is the most important thing I'll ever say. The mainframe controlling all of this is hidden beneath Vault-Tec headquarters in Washington. Not the building you can explore, but the real headquarters, 300 feet below the ruins. The entrance is through a maintenance tunnel in the Arlington Cemetery Metro. Look for a grave marked American Unknown with the date October 23, 2077. The tombstone is a scanner. It will only open for someone with Vault 101's genetic markers. It will open for you. Inside, you'll find the truth. Every experiment file, every observation report, every piece of evidence that proves what they've done. More importantly, you'll find the kill switch. Vault-Tec built a failsafe in case their experiments went wrong. A way to shut down the entire network and free everyone from their control. They never thought anyone would find it. Never imagined one of their subjects would turn against them. But they also prepared for that possibility, because that's what Vault-Tec does. The facility is guarded by subjects from failed experiments. People driven mad by the knowledge of what was done to them. The security systems are designed to trigger psychological responses in anyone with Vault conditioning. You'll face your worst fears, relive your most traumatic memories. The facility itself will try to break you, to make you doubt everything, even this warning. If you're hearing this, if you're really the lone wanderer, then you have a choice to make. You can continue living the life they designed for you, playing your role in their grand experiment. Or you can descend into that darkness and try to end it all. But know this, they're counting on you making that choice too. They've probably predicted it, planned for it, maybe even want it. The ultimate test of their experiment might be whether you'll try to destroy it. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know if there is a right answer when every choice might be part of their design. But I believe, I have to believe, that somewhere in you is something they didn't create, couldn't predict, can't control. Maybe it came from your mother in those few moments before she died. Maybe it was always there, a quantum of humanity that no amount of conditioning could erase. Maybe it's the part of you that made a martyr cry real tears when she sent you away. The sun is setting now. I can see it through the ventilation grate, painting the wasteland in shades of radiation and regret. Soon, someone will find this recording. They'll probably destroy it, claim it was the ravings of a dying man, that the cancer had reached my brain. Maybe they're right. Maybe I imagined it all. Created an elaborate conspiracy to explain the senseless cruelty of our existence. But you'll know the truth when you stand before that grave in Arlington. You'll feel it in your bones, that pull toward a destiny you never chose. Whether you go there or not, whether you believe me or not, you've been warned. The experiment continues, but now you know you're in it. And maybe, just maybe, that knowledge is enough to break their hold. Remember this, they fear you. Why else would they work so hard to control you? You're not just their creation, you're their potential destruction. Every Vault dweller who emerges thinking they're free, every wastelander who drinks that water, every person whose life you've touched, they're all counting on you, even if they don't know it. My name was Marcus Hollowell. I was born in Vault 101, lived my whole life in Vault 101, and I'll die in Vault 101. But I'll die free because I know the truth. And now so do you. The real question isn't whether what I've told you is real. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? What do you think really happened here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd like to know if I'm the only one who feels this way. They're coming for me now. I can hear them in the halls, their footsteps too synchronized to be natural. This recording will survive, it has to, because if even one person hears this and questions their reality, If one lone wanderer realizes they're more than Vault-Tec's puppet, then maybe there's hope for us all. If you've ever wondered what choice you would make in a situation like this, tell me in the comments. I'll be reading them. Look for the grave, find the truth, end the experiment, or don't. After all, that choice might be exactly what they want you to make.